Kepler is a planet located 20 light-years away from Earth in the constellation Orion. Its surface consists of rocks and volcanoes, and the temperature ranges from 70 to plus 20 degrees Celsius. Its core emits poisonous gases that can kill a human. One day, the Orion shuttle, with 2 crew members on board, lands on planet Kepler to survey it in hopes of finding a future home for humanity. However, in the very first minutes, the cosmonauts are caught in a storm and lose each other. Some time passes. The ship's system starts up and goes into debugging mode. An elderly cosmonaut wakes up and makes himself breakfast on a regular gas stove, then sits down on a training device while listening to a message about the planet that orbits both stars every 20 to 29 days. Later, he records a message in the ship's log stating that the shuttle's reactors were damaged by the storm, and now the ship cannot return to Earth. Commander Jonas Martinez has lost contact with the captain and hopes that over the past 20 years, humanity's technological capabilities have advanced and a rescue mission is already on its way. He repairs the panels, replacing them with egg cartons, and again tries to contact NASA. But night falls and the old man goes to sleep in his capsule. And in the morning, everything repeats. Jonas still hopes that Captain Petros is alive and somewhere on the planet. He has breakfast and talks to the ship's AI, which he calls Super. It informs the commander that no disturbances have been detected around them, nor any sign of the captain. Jonas realizes he is alone, with no communication and no idea where his partner is. However, it turns out that they are not alone on Kepler after all, and the spacecraft cabin is just a regular apartment in a multi-story building. Jonas is awakened by an alarm signal because a government official is knocking on his door. However, he calls them alien cockroaches and activates a system that sprays foam into the person's face, forcing him to flee. In the hallway, the official is met by the old man's neighbor, Manolo, who has long been angry at the crazy Jonas for not paying the communal building fees. The inspector suggests filing a complaint, but Manolo has already sent them everywhere he could. While the neighbors discuss the crazy old man's behavior, a 13-year-old girl named Zaida, who recently moved here and is simply called Zay by everyone, enters the building. The girl picks up the mail, among which is a letter from the Social Welfare Fund. Going up to her floor, Zay feels signs of an impending asthma attack as she suffers from asthma and uses her inhaler. On her floor, she is met by a neighbor, to whom Zay explains that she moved here with her uncle. Hearing their voices, the man himself comes out, introduces himself as Paco, and reprimands Zay for being late from school. Meanwhile, in Jonas's apartment, Super reports that their food supplies are running low and the old man should plant the greenhouse. He goes to the bathroom where vegetable seedlings are already growing and becomes upset when he sees that some of the sprouts have died. The old man records his concerns in the log, noting that he is surrounded by hostile and dangerous life forms that are getting closer every day. In the morning, Zay heads to school, greeting another local resident along the way who believes he is the director of a stock exchange and reports daily on how many millions his company made that day. The girl suggests he visit the community soup kitchen and leaves a coin on his table. But instead of going to school, she goes down to the basement, opens the letter she received, and learns that her uncle is required to provide proof of his disability. It becomes clear that Paco lives off her benefits. Zay takes out a toy she once received from her mother. Her mother used to read her The Little Prince and told her that it was a star flower, asking her daughter to treat people kindly. The girl didn't understand where her mother was going and asked her to take her along. That was when her mother gave her this magical star, which Zay could look at whenever she felt bad. At this time, the lights go out in Jonas's apartment. Super reports that a fuse is damaged, and the old man, putting on his spacesuit, goes out into the stairwell and down to the basement, where Zay discovers that she has run out of medicine. The old man reaches the disconnected fuse box and connects the wires. Super reports that power is restored and the mission is accomplished. But before leaving, Jonas suddenly sees the unconscious girl. He carries Zay back to his apartment, puts his mask on her, and supplies her with oxygen. When she comes to, the old man explains that she is on the Orion spacecraft and has been asleep for 4 hours. Panicking, Zay rushes to the door, even though the old man tries to stop her, insisting it's dangerous outside. Nevertheless, the girl runs away. She returns home, where Paco grumbles that she has not inherited her mother's culinary talents. Zay asks for money for medicine, and after receiving it, goes to Jonas's apartment. The old man greets her in his spacesuit, and upon hearing his questions about how she survived Kepler's atmosphere, Zay realizes her neighbor is not in his right mind. Looking around, she admits that she came to thank him for saving her. But at that moment, Jonas's doorbell rings again. This time, the official shows him an eviction notice. Jonas activates the foam spraying system, but this time the man shields himself with a large umbrella. A locksmith then gets to work, but Jonas orders Super to implement the additional defense plan. He connects clamps to the doorknob, and at his command, Zay flips the switch, which throws the locksmith back from the door. The team leaves. Seeing that Zay uses an inhaler, the old man is overjoyed because it's proof that she is human. The girl gives in, admitting she is an envoy from NASA. Jonas declares her the captain of the rescue mission and falls to his knees, weeping with happiness. Zay begins to fantasize, explaining how she reached Kepler, since spaceships aren't needed at all in the future. The girl shows the old man her toy star, explaining that it's what now allows her to travel through space. Zay gives him her school breakfast and leaves, not noticing that Manolo has seen where she came from. Later, he meets Paco in a nearby bar and tells him he saw Zay in the crazy neighbor's apartment. The bartender and other neighbors say that Jonas is harmless. An argument ensues, but everyone else falls silent, not wanting to get involved with the aggressive man, and only Paco continues listening to his stories. Returning home, he attacks Zay, grabbing her by the face, but at that moment, the doorbell rings. The neighbor who brought the inhaler found in the basement notices Zay's frightened look. Meanwhile, Jonas continues wandering through the imagined world of Kepler, searching for the captain. He thinks he sees him, but it turns out to be a dream. In his kitchen, Zay is making herself at home, having brought groceries and cooked a meal for him. The old man eats, then lies down to rest. Meanwhile, Zay looks around at the objects around her, most of which are related to space in one way or another. Among the numerous sci-fi books, she suddenly finds The Little Prince. She remembers her mother and reads the dedication on the first page from Jonas to his son. Then she sees a photo album where a young Jonas is pictured first with his wife, then with his sons. In the last photo, the woman is in a hospital room, and beyond that, the album's pages are blank. Zay realizes he went through the same tragedy she did. Then the girl sees a postcard of a planetarium and goes there. She watches a lecture about the starry sky and fascination, then notices an elderly janitor. After looking at the photo, the man nods. He knows Jonas well, who worked there. He had never seen anyone who loved the stars and his job so much. Jonas had 2 sons, but one died in a motorcycle accident. Then his wife died, and nobody heard from Jonas again. The janitor recalls that the second son was named Pedro, but the young man went down a bad path. He doesn't know where he is now. Zay goes home. Her stepfather is already asleep, and on his chest lies a photo of him and her mother hugging. The girl feels sorry for him and covers him with a blanket. The next day, she goes to Jonas again, makes him breakfast, and asks about the missing captain. The old man confesses that the captain is his son. The boy always followed in his father's footsteps and dreamed of the stars. His wife is currently in cryogenic sleep so that she can wait for her husband and son to return from space in her slumber. Zay says that many years have passed on Earth and that it is no longer the place he remembers. The girl quotes The Little Prince, and the old man perks up, recalling that he also read this book to his son. He urges Captain Zay not to give up and promises that she will see her mother again. The girl leads the old man to the couch and continues examining his belongings. In one of the drawers, she finds financial documents indicating a transfer Jonas made in Pedro's name. She then goes to the bank. At first, the bank teller refuses to provide any information, but Zay pleads so earnestly for help saving her grandpa's only home that the woman relents and gives her the recipient's address. The girl finds a hangar on the outskirts where she is greeted by a man who seems mentally unstable from substance use. But Pedro doesn't want to admit that his father is alive and drives Zay away. However, noticing that the doors are not fully closed, she sneaks inside and finds crumpled lottery tickets on the table. She realizes that Pedro is also a fortune hunter and manages to grab one ticket before he finally forces her out. At that point, Zay admits she came for him so he could collect her father's winnings, from which she wants a share. The man immediately perks up and agrees to come to get Jonas's winning 100,000th ticket. The girl hurries home, greeting the director who complains about falling stocks and admits that he has joined the social club she recommended. Then Paco calls out to her, scolding her for spending money improperly. However, Manolo pulls him aside, and Zay calmly goes to Jonas to tell him she has found his son, Captain Pedro, and that tomorrow there will be a holographic communication session with him. The code for it is written on the lottery ticket, which Zay gives the old man. The girl leaves, and Jonas stares at a photo of a young Pedro for a long time. Meanwhile, Paco and Manolo are drinking in the bar when the school principal calls, worried about Zeta's prolonged absence from classes. Her truancy has already drawn attention from social services. The man rushes home, where Zay is packing a cake for Pedro's arrival. Paco attacks her, yelling that he works hard for his money, but Zay reminds him that he lives off her social benefits. He breaks her toy and brutally beats the girl. The next day, Jonas starts worrying because Zay never shows up. Instead, Pedro appears, realizing his father has completely lost his mind. He promises to tidy up the apartment once they collect the winnings. Jonas doesn't understand what Pedro is talking about and recalls how they built a spaceship in his room when he was a child, but the man retorts that it was the older son who was loved and respected. Pedro was always considered a stupid failure, and that's what he became. Pedro demands Jonas give him the ticket, sees it on the table, and realizes Zay tricked him. Enraged, Pedro starts trashing the apartment and is about to hit his father. But looking at the old man, he simply leaves. Meanwhile, Zay regains consciousness and gets out of the apartment. Paco hears the door, rushes after her, and tries to beat her again. But he is blinded by a mysterious light, and the old man in a spacesuit shoves him. Paco falls and hits his head. While he is recovering, Jonas leads Zay away to his place. He lays the girl on his couch and makes her scrambled eggs, as she needs to regain her strength. He says that an alien attacked him too. Zay confesses that it was his son. Later, Zay overhears Jonas recording a message about entering cryogenic sleep and launching his capsule into space. He shows her the refrigerator, insisting it's the capsule, and urges her to rest before the flight. Meanwhile, Manolo provokes Paco, insisting they find out what Jonas is doing with his girl. Fueled by alcohol, they head to Jonas's apartment, stirring up the neighbors. One even starts filming. Unable to open the door, Paco convinces Manolo to set the place on fire, tossing a burning bottle through the bathroom window. The police arrive, alerted by the commotion. Jonas suggests he and Zay board the capsule. She tries to reveal the truth about their surroundings, but he refuses to believe there is no ship or Kepler. Learning a girl is trapped inside, the police begin breaking down the door as flames spread. Zay faints, and Jonas puts her in the fridge with him, ordering Super to launch. Onlookers see a capsule fly out the window and up into the sky. Jonas and Zay appear to be in space, recalling loved ones they have lost. Firefighters open the fridge after catching it on a rescue tarp. While medics treat them, a neighbor shows the police footage of the arson. The director punches Paco for endangering his main investment. Paco and Manolo are arrested, and Zay is taken to the hospital. Sometime later, a caring foster family drives Zay to a country nursing home where Jonas now lives. He admits he hardly recognizes Earth. Zay leads him to his room, where a new robot, an intelligent speaker called Taurus Ultra, awaits, ready for their next mission.